Sleep rising. Might as well. I'm walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo, and we appreciate you making us part of your morning routine. Whether you're live on Facebook, live on YouTube, or if you're watching live on Roku TV right now, thanks to the fine people over at Northeastern Sports Productions, we are happy that you are here. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing great. As a sports fan, I'm great. As a particular fan of a team, it's tough. Look, sports is everything. It's joy, it's despair, it's depression, it's jubilation. I'm on more of the it doesn't look good thing right now. But look, if you love sports, in particular, if you love the NBA, you got two great games last night. My team just came out on the short end of the greater game, in my opinion. And that happens. A great player made an incredible shot. You tip your hat to him, and that's why they're the world champs.
Mo, I am 100% convinced that Major League Baseball umpire Hunter Wendelstedt listens to the podcast, because we go on yesterday morning and we say that Angel Hernandez is the worst umpire in all of Major League Baseball. And Hunter says, hang on a moment. I got you. Let me get some of that shine. Hunter Wendelstedt was behind the plate yesterday for the Yankees-Oakland game. And I will tell you right now, a very small portion of this is 100% the fault of Aaron Boone. When you become a manager in Major League Baseball who kind of has a reputation for having a short fuse, who has a reputation for getting themselves ejected, umpires are more likely going to not give you a lot of rope, right? And Aaron Boone has certainly developed a reputation in the last few seasons in the Bronx as a manager who is going to get his money's worth, as a manager who is going to chirp, and as a manager who has become very familiar with getting tossed. So, Mo, if you didn't see the game yesterday, we were one batter into the game. Aaron Boone was not happy with a hit by the pitch call. He was chirping from the top step of the dugout, and he was immediately warned. Hunter immediately was barking at him, told him that, that this is your warning. You say anything else, I'm going to toss you out of the game. Aaron Boone gave him a thumbs up. He kind of did the, all right, I hear you. Thumbs up, we're good. And then, Aaron Boone is literally just standing there. At one point, he's looking at his nails, and out of nowhere, Hunter tosses him. He ejects him, and Aaron Boone completely loses his mind. He's screaming at Hunter. I literally didn't say anything. I didn't open my mouth. It wasn't me. He's pointing to a gentleman behind the dugout. It's a fan in a blue polo. Brad Ausmus, the bench coach, is also pointing to the fan. There are players who are like, it was that guy. That guy was literally the guy that said something. And Hunter, this is all audio. The game picked up all this audio as Boone is losing his mind. I didn't effing say anything. What the F is your problem? I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And Hunter is saying back to him, I don't care. Those are his words, Mo. He said, I don't care. Aaron Boone is saying, I didn't say a word. I didn't open my mouth. It wasn't even a player in the dugout. It was somebody from the stands. And Hunter's response to that was, I don't care. So then you have the analysts in the booth who are like, easy there, Hunter. You don't need to be on audio right now saying that you don't care, that you potentially just made an absolutely terrible ejection and got it completely wrong. So, Mo, what happens is when, any sport, the game comes to an end, you have an opportunity to remove yourself from the emotions. Maybe you have an opportunity to see some replays, to get some feedback from your peers, to have a better understanding of what transpired and led to a call that you made. And sometimes we see officials in different sports say, you know what? Here's why I did it in the moment. I realize now, having a lot of information that I didn't have in the moment, that it was something different. But I stand by my call because in the moment, this is what I thought happened. But now I understand that it was slightly different than what I thought. No, that's not what Hunter did, Mo. Hunter doubled down. He tripled down on his take. Brian Hotch, who is a reporter who covers the Yankees, he said that home plate umpire Hunter Wendelstein said he heard something from the area of the dugout. This fan was sitting directly behind the Yankees dugout, so he is correct. It did come from the area of the Yankees dugout. And rather than determine what was happening or who said it, Hunter said, quote, Aaron Boone is the manager of the New York Yankees and is responsible for everything that happens in that dugout. I don't want to eject a ball player. We need to keep them in the game. That's what fans pay to see. Aaron Boone runs the Yankees. He got ejected, end quote. He then went on to say, quote, apparently what he said was there was a fan right above the dugout. This isn't my first ejection. In the entirety of my career, I have never ejected a player or a manager for something that a fan said. Well, hot damn, Hunter, there's a first time for everything.
Correct.
It truly happened yesterday. So congratulations, sir. He goes on to say, I understand that's going to be a part of the story or something like that because that's what Aaron was portraying. I heard something come from the far end of the dugout. It had nothing to do with the area where the fan was. He's the manager of the Yankees, so he's the one that had to go, end quote. Mo, this guy, his calling is somewhere else because not only does he know the direction it came from, he knows the specific area that it came from. It came from the far end of the dugout. He's got those sonar ears or something. Does my he's more than right, left, up, down. He's like, oh, that's to the left, deep corner of the dugout. I know exactly where that came from. Mo, of course, I'm a little biased. I'm a Yankee fan. But at the same time, like, bro, if you made a mistake, you made a mistake. It is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, umpires have discretion. If they want to toss you, they're going to toss you. Just like EA officials going to tee you up if they want to tee you up. Like, they could have woke up on the wrong side of the bed that day, which by the way, I don't think Hunter wanted the early game in the Bronx. Just the impression that I get from how he was so fired up in the first inning. But it is what it is. Like, you say what you thought you heard. I thought it came from the dugout. I thought it was Boone. If it wasn't, that's unfortunate. But here we are, and you move on. But Mo, to double and triple down and then go on and say, I've never tossed a player or a coach for something a fan. Hunter.
Right. But you just did it. You just did it. And to me, your argument, it goes out the window when in the moment you're like, I don't care. In the moment you said I don't care. So it didn't matter. You established that he didn't say anything and you're still like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm gonna run you. You're getting ran. Like, he had made up his mind. It almost seemed personal. He had made up his mind, like you said. He woke up on the wrong side of the bed, did not want the early game, and I guess since he couldn't leave, he wanted to help somebody else leave.
He got Aaron out of there real quick. Let's get JG up here and see what JG thinks about Mr. Wendelstead and him running my guy, running Boone out of town. And like I said, Aaron Boone's a part of this. JG, welcome into the show. How are you this morning, sir?
Doing good. How are you guys doing this morning?
Hey, morning, JG.
JG, I know you were listening in the back. I got no problem with people getting run out of the game. And like I said, part of this is definitely Aaron Boone's fault. These last couple of seasons, it's funny because I think it really started like 3 or 4 years ago. And you have that initial, well, every now and then you got to do it, right? It gets the team fired up. You pick your spots to get yourself tossed. And I think Boone just leans into it a little too much. But he chirped early. He got his warning. Clearly, Hunter wasn't going to put up with his nonsense throughout the game. And then, JG, we're human. Because right after he gave the warning, the fan is literally sitting right behind Boone. I understand why Hunter thought it was Boone, because you just warned the guy, and then 10 seconds, 15 seconds later, you're hearing it again. I get it. And once you ring him, you can't unring him. So I get that part as well. You can't be like, oh, it was a fan, my bad. You're back in the – like, I get it. Once you're gone, you're gone. It is what it is. But when the game is over, JG, and you have a chance, and they showed the replay right after in the game, everyone knew what happened. So when just put it out there. My bad. He was sitting right behind Boone. It was my bad. It happens. And you move on. Like, no one's going to sit here and be like, how could you have done that? I get it. I understand why you did it. But, JG, for me to come back and you're just – well, first of all, two things. I want your opinion on the first one. To be mic'd up. I know he wasn't mic'd up. I know it was the game day mics that were picking up his audio. But to be like, I don't care. Like, you got to know there's a chance that a mic's going to pick that up. I feel like, you might want to present yourself better in that situation as opposed to throwing out the I don't care and whatnot. And then after the game, just, it's okay to be like, my bad. Is it not, JG?
This whole story, this whole thing reminds me of the story that I heard listening to the Braves gathering of Smoltz, Glavine, Chipper, Bobby Cox, and Greg Maddux, and John Smoltz had his own issue with Hunter Wendelstedt at a play at third base, and Wendelstedt steps on his foot, makes him fall over, and kind of bumps into him, and Smoltz gets ejected, and it goes, "Oh, you bumped me," type of. It's very Hunter's a good umpire. I will say that. I'm not going to say he has been good at throughout his career. He's had moments where you kind of sit back and go, "Okay, Hunter, really." But he's been for the most part, he's been a good umpire. But there's been moments where you kind of have a little bit of soft skin in his career, and this is no exception. This was again, as you said, day game, not a full sellout crowd, so you could probably hear. That's the thing too. When it's not a big crowd, you can hear a whole lot more. And what I have a problem with in this situation for Hunter is Boone's voice. Right. You know what he sounds like, and you know how he is, how he sounds like when he's yelling at something or chirping at you. The voice is very distinct per manager, that you have on each team. So when you hear somebody else's voice and that's probably why he thought at the time that, it was somebody from the dugout, because you knew it wasn't Boone. And he is right about something that was stated. Aaron Boone is the manager of the team. He is responsible for everybody and everything that goes on in that dugout. That is 100% true statement. So if somebody's chirping, and umpires don't want to eject players. They sometimes have to. Now, there's some umpires, I will say, there's some umpires who do have quick triggers on players. But for the most part, they don't want to eject players because what was stated is correct. Fans came to watch players. They didn't come to watch coaches. They didn't come to watch the managers. And they certainly didn't come to watch the umpires. So they don't really want to eject players, especially from the dugout situation. They're gonna target the manager. And so when you kind of have hear a voice that is not the manager's, but you have to take a step into it. And that's what Hunter did was, okay, you know what, Boone, you're gone because you are supposed to control your dugout. Now, the second part of your question is why did he double down at the end of it? It's more of, you have to stand by your guns, unfortunately, and that's a horrible answer. I'm going to go ahead and say that's a horrible answer. I am, I don't like saying that, but you can't, as an umpire, go, well, yeah, I screwed up. He probably did that to his to the umpire chief, who handles who handles all the grading of it. He probably went behind the scenes and said, okay, now that I realize that, yeah, I screwed up. But in the media wise, no, you can't. You as an umpire, you can't double down, because now even though he's a target a little bit more now, Hunter is, because they know he's got a quick trigger for certain things that said. If you double down, it gets worse. I'm sorry, not double down. If you backtrack to the media and say, you know what, yeah, I screwed up, at times it's going to get worse. And you would think, well, no, if you admit that you did wrong, it would be better. Not by the coaches and players and managers. That you absolutely admitted fault, that you screwed up. And it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing either way for Hunter, but it's not even, it's a little bit worse if you go back into the media and go, oh yeah, I see what I did wrong, and I'm sorry. I should have had a little bit longer leash, or I should have had a little bit more patience, or I should have realized it wasn't anybody from the dugout, which is hard to do though. That is hard for Hunter to distinguish. That's a fan versus a player or a coach.
Well, I mean, JG, he told us where it was. It was the back corner. He heard the whole thing. The man's got sonar ears, all right? He pinpointed where that sound came from. My guy Hunter did. JG, let's talk a little bit. We've never talked about this, and I'm really excited to get your opinion on it. I want to talk a little bit about the sports agency side of things in Major League Baseball. This is coming on the heels of the news that the Remus sports agency, which Bad Bunny is a part of, they're facing a $400,000 fine from the Major League Baseball Players Association, as well as a 5-year ban for their top agent. And JG, this all comes back to evidence that was found a week or two after this agency became a thing. They apparently went to Major League Baseball players who were currently had other representation from other agents. And this report is saying that they more or less bribed them, gifted them, gave them money or other things to persuade them to leave their current agent or agency and to sign on with the Remus Group. And I'm assuming that, for the sake of good business, JG, those things are probably frowned upon. You don't want agents, basically paying baseball players to come be a part of their agency. You want things to kind of be on the up and up. And some of their biggest clients include Francisco Alvarez, catcher for the New York Mets, Ronnie Mauricio, he's also with the Mets, infielder, Cincinnati Reds infielder Santiago Espinal, Colorado Rockies outfielder Jonathan Daza, and Tovar, their shortstop there, Wilmer Flores. They got it. They got some names, no superstars, but they got some names. So, JG, looking at that side of it, is this something that is completely not in the norm, I want to say, in the world of sports? Because there's things that you get caught for, and it's like, shame on you for getting caught, and you just didn't play the game the right way. And then there's things you get caught for where it's like, how dare you? How dare you cross that line? We don't do those things here. That's a rookie mistake. You should never have done that. Which of those situations is this, JG? It's unfortunate you didn't do it the right way, and you're going to pay the price for it, or is it we don't do this and you should have known better?
This, in the sports agency world, it's actually, you have moments like that, to the extent I don't know. I got the article right in front of me from Bleacher Report. I don't know much about this ideal situation and what took place and what occurred. Major League Baseball, a little differently than the NFL and NBA, as far as how the agents and the sports agency and players relationships, as far as how one goes from one to another, it's a little bit more strenuous. It's a little bit more tight-lipped. You don't have. I know we just saw Jordan Montgomery switch agents from Scott Boras to a different agency after his free agency, but you don't really have a lot of these kind of issues take place in Major League Baseball. And just because there is a little bit of a competitive respect in regards of agents. I've had a handful of agents through my career that I talked with and whatnot, and there's a respect level that you have to go about a process. There is a certain process that has to take place to be able to go from one agent to another, and there's a respect level on that. In regards of what this company did, they absolutely did not respect this process. They were just out recruiting and basically just saying, screw everybody else. We're going to go get who we want. The biggest, and there's one that you didn't name, the biggest star that they're trying to get in as far as according to Bleacher Report just a few days ago, Ronald Acuna Jr. is expected to sign with Rima Sports in a marketing and off-field capacity, not as a representative of baseball, not a representative of baseball, but for marketing and off-field. But that's a beginning relationship that could potentially lead to baseball-related business for Rima Sports. And that's the concern, is exactly in what capacity, when they spoke to these players, did they say, hey, we're going to do this, but wait, because we're going to come get you and you're going to be represented by us. That's a shady way of doing things. And that's a frowned upon regarding the agency. So this ban that you're going to get from Rima Sports, I think it was a 5-year ban, and it was $400,000 fine from the Players Union. In which case, at that point, if the Players Union is the one who's putting this together for this investigation, this is a serious allegation that is being put against them. That the ethics business is about ethics. No matter what you do, no matter what business you're in or who you are, there's an ethical side of doing things. And Rima Sports absolutely skirted the ethical side of how to get players, how to recruit players, and basically just said, we're not even worried about it. We're going to go do our own thing. So, yeah, you don't hear this very often in Major League Baseball with agents. Like I said, they've been around for quite a while. The groups have been around together. I mean, the latest one we saw, and I could be off on the latest one, but remember we had Rock Sports with Jay-Z. How they had a process of applying to be able to be a baseball representative of players, and they went about the process the right way to do so, and they were able to gain that access to be a representative. So this is something that you don't hear very often, because the ethical side of the business is so important for Major League Baseball and the Players Union.
JJ, we talked about the American League yesterday. Let's touch on the National League today. Let's start in the NL West. The Dodgers lead the West. Maybe not the way that Dodger fans thought it was going to look 24 games into the season. They're pretty much a 500 team. They're 2 games above 500. Some of their starters are still trying to kind of find their groove. And then you got the Padres right behind them, hanging around 500. And then you can't even really count out 25 games into the season, the Diamondbacks and the Giants. The Diamondbacks definitely have taken a step back a little bit this first month or so. They're 2 games back. And then the Giants, I don't know what anyone really expected from the Giants. No one wanted their money. They thought they were going to put together a good team. They're only 2 games out, 25 games in, so it's not the end of the world. But as you're looking at this division, and everyone to a certain degree, and if you ask them, they all probably kind of feel they're underperforming a little bit, is just a situation where you're kind of waiting for the Dodgers to go through their growing pains. And once they kind of get set, they're going to walk this division out and they're going to win it by double digits. Or are you looking at the Dodgers and you're like, they're going to be a good team. They're going to make the playoffs, but maybe they're not as good as we thought they were going to be. I know it's only 25 games, but what are you seeing from LA early on in the season?
There is some concern and in multiple facets where you look at the lineup. The lineup's not balanced. It's a very tight. And when we talked about this back in the winter, the lineup was a concern in my book because you have a very top-heavy lineup. When Shohei signed, you had Shohei, you had Mookie, you had Freddie, you had Will Smith and Max Muncy, 1 through 5. And then what happens 6, 7, 8, 9? That was the concern that I had is, if you can manage, if a pitching staff can manage through the 1 through 5 and get to the bottom of the lineup, you're fine. If you can limit the damage that the 1 through 5 order has to be able to do, you can be fine as a team. And that's what they have done so far. Pitchers have been able to manage the 1 through 5 of the lineup and limit the damage they can provide. And then you go and attack the 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters, and you can win ball games that way against this team. So there is some concern in that side of it. I think the pitching staff, there is some concern. Yamamoto is struggling to adjust to Major League Baseball and the hitters that are here. This is, again, nothing against the Nippon League in Japan, but there is some really good hitters in that league. Just not to the level of Major League Baseball. You can put an average hitter from Major League Baseball, put him in Japan, and he's one of the top hitters. And so this is a whole different level and a whole different era. So he's going to make the adjustment. I'm as I said to you guys, the first season for Yamamoto, I'm not judging what he does. This is an adjustment period. We've seen this with everybody. We saw this with Masahiro Tanaka. We saw this with Daisuke Matsuzaka. We've seen this from Japanese pitchers. The first year is an adjustment, and then they take off after that. So I don't expect this to be an exception for Yamamoto. But there is some concern for this Dodgers team. Do I expect that they're going to make a move around the deadline? Absolutely, because they have the money. They have their own printing machine of money, and they can make they'll make a move or two here and there to fine tune some of the rotation and the lineup and be able to go from there. Arizona. I think they're hanging around. I'm not worried about them because there is still some injuries to the pitching staff. Eduardo Rodriguez has not pitched yet. You have Jordan Montgomery, who hasn't pitched yet either. So we know that the two of their pitchers that are going to be potential mainstays in that rotation have not made their debuts of the season yet. So we're going to expect them once we see both of them. I think this team's going to take off a little bit more. They are a little bit in the disappointing side, being 11-13. The analytics say they should be 14-10. So that tells you at some point the analytics always balances out. The numbers will always balance out in baseball. So at some point they're behind their expected win-loss record. They will catch up to that number. They should if you're a good team, which I do think the Diamondbacks are a good team. They'll get caught up to the analytics and be able to put a little bit more pressure on the Dodgers. And that's what I expect is going to happen here pretty soon.
JG, what do you make of the NL Central? I mean, you look at the teams that are here forever and ever. It was the St. Louis Cardinals. They were kind of the flag bearer. They were the model of consistency in that division. That hasn't been the case the past couple of years. And if the Cardinals are just not going to be the model of consistency competing for that division year after year, you got a bunch of other teams that no one really likes to talk about. The Cubs obviously got a little national media flair going on. And then when you look at the young teams with the Pirates and the Reds, okay, like they have some exciting young players, but historically not great franchises the last 10, 15 years. The Brewers won the division last year, but unless you're a baseball fan, you probably would have no idea that was the case. What do you make of the Central? If you had to jockey it right now, who's standing out to you in that race?
I've been impressed with the Brewers right now. I expected them to take a big fallback. You lose your manager, Craig Counsell. You lose your number one pitcher, Corbin Burns. You lose your number two pitcher, Brandon Woodruff, to an injury, to shoulder surgery. And they're winning. I mean, it's as simple as that. They're still winning. So that tells you the culture, even though there's been some questionable decisions that have been made over the years from this franchise, like how they've handled Corbin Burns, how they handled trading Josh Hader in the middle of a division race that they were winning a couple of years ago. There's a culture that's there that's built on winning and contending. And they have not shied away from that culture. So that tells me that that's why they're 14-7 right now, despite the lack of talent in certain areas. Culture carries you, and they've built that right now. And that's something that we've seen from the Cardinals for so many years, and that has changed over the last couple of years from the St. Louis Cardinals. And that falls on the manager that the franchise just gave an extension to. Shocked that they did that. I was expecting this to be probably his last season, or even not even make it through the season. I said it to you guys quite a bit, and yet they extended him, for a few more years. So I don't really know what direction the Cardinals are thinking they're going to be going, because where they're at right now in last place is exactly what they're going to continue to be. You're going to probably see the Cardinals sell here pretty at the deadline, where we may see Arenado get traded and a couple other players get traded, just because you're not a contender, you're not competing, your culture has gone. The winning, consistent culture of the St. Louis Cardinals that we've seen for 20 years is gone. So I think this is the Brewers' division right now. I think the Cubs, if they can continue to pitch well, despite losing Justin Steele for a while, despite again not having the flashy names in their rotation, they're still competing, they're still winning. And I think that's what if they make a move for a starting pitcher around the deadline, this team could jump the Brewers. I think there's more talent in Chicago than there is in Milwaukee. But at some point, the pitching side has to get better to do that. So I think if we see the Cubs make a move, they can win this division. The disappointment of the Reds, I picked the Reds to win this division. I think injuries in the pitching staff has really hurt them, make them take a step back. Elly De La Cruz has flashes of showing greatness, and then he shows that he's still a kid in Major League Baseball. At some point, maturity has to kick in for him. Same thing with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Maturity has to kick in for some of these kids and be able to really develop themselves as big leaguers. The wild card for the Pirates is, when does Paul Skeens get called up? Mm-hmm. And what does he do to that rotation into that team? It's a matter of time. The dude is absolutely lights out in AAA right now. So, it's a matter of when, not if, we see Paul Skeens get called up to the big leagues.
And then, of course, the NL East, the home of your Braves. The Braves and the Phillies are doing their thing on top. JG, if I just showed the records and not the team names to a baseball fan, they would probably guess the Mets would be the 6-18 record right now, not the Marlins. The Mets are 12-10, which, most people would be like, okay, Chris, they're 12-10. We thought the Mets would be a dumpster fire. So not only are they playing competitive baseball, they're playing above 500 baseball. JG, is this going to last for the Mets? Is this just a good stretch they're putting together? Or are we going to be talking, Mets vying for the wild card conversation as the season wears on?
I think that they're right where they're supposed to be. 12-10, fluttering with the 500 mark. I think they're going to be better than what they are. There is a lot of talent still in that lineup. Obviously, Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso. You do have Francisco Alvarez. He got hurt. There is some talent in that lineup. The pitching, again, you can talk about. I can say the pitching is a question mark for every team in baseball right now. That is a huge issue for all 30 teams. There's nobody that is immune to the pitching questions that are going on right now, and the Mets are no exception to that at the moment. But they're pitching well. Luis Severino has had some starts this year that looks, and I know that disgusts you, Chris. I'm sorry. That absolutely disgusts you. I can see it in your face.
What a bum.
But Luis Severino has looked really good. He's shown some of the flashes that made him a talking point with the Yankees for a while. He's doing that currently. Now, the one issue, and this in the word I'm about to use, is how consistent can Severino be? Mm-hmm. He showed greatness at times, and then he goes and looks like he doesn't belong. He looks like he belongs in AA at times. So how does he sustain this this great start after great start? How consistent does he be? That's a big question mark for the Mets. But they are going to be around what I guess at this point a 500 team. How much can they push the Braves and Phillies? That's I don't know at the moment. I don't know. I know they won the series against the Braves early this month. They had a tough Braves. I'm not using an excuse. They had a sweep against the Diamondbacks. A little bit of a bullpen stretch game that they had to use. Tax the bullpen completely against the Diamondbacks. So that it set up pretty well for the Mets in that era. But at the same time, you give credit. They won the series. And that's against the Braves. That's a hard thing to do. So I think the Mets will hang around, but I think they're going to be a 500 team majority of the year as they go. Marlins, I think, they're one of the most disappointing teams right now. I think they because of 6-18, they looked absolutely. There is boneheaded mistakes that just continue to shape up. Last night was no exception against the Braves, where a base running gaffe cost them a run in the first inning. You have to score early against the Braves, even though they can score quick and fast and be able to put pressure on you real easily. If you can score early against the Braves, you have a chance. And they ruined their opportunity to score early in the first inning against Bryce Elder, who was making his debut last night, the season debut. You had a chance to put some pressure on them, and they blundered it. And this is not the first time we've seen the Marlins absolutely blunder after blunder after blunder this season already. So you have to put them in the conversation as one of the more disappointing teams in baseball And I think it's weird. I think we'll see a 2-team race with the Phillies and Braves continue to go at it. They're very evenly, as I said, 15-6 the Braves, 15-8 the Phillies. They're both very evenly matched with each other. They're built very similar. The one thing I've noticed about the Braves real quick is they are basically going to a 6-man rotation with Spencer Strider out for the year. They have stretched out, their rotations where they bring up a kid. Bryce Elder got called up. Darius Vines pitched on Sunday. They're essentially moving to a 6-man rotation by calling up kids from AAA, spot starting him once a week, letting Chris Sale get 6 days, letting Ronaldo Lopez get 7 days, letting Charlie Morton get 6 days. They went to a 6, and I think this is actually a pretty genius move, knowing that you have older pitchers in Sale and Morton, and you have Fried, who right now looks like he does need that little extra rest, and you have some question marks with your 5th spot. And I know Lopez has pitched absolutely outstanding, but he hadn't been a starter in the big leagues. This is something new right now that we're seeing out of him. So giving him an extra day or two to be the starter and let him get that extra rest it's a genius move that the Braves are doing. How long they can sustain it is the big question. But right now, beginning part of the year, it's working. And I think this is, Brian Snitker and the coaching staff in the front office has done a great job planning out how to do this, and has given them a chance to have right now the best record in baseball.
JG, always appreciate you, sir. We will see you later on in the week.
Sounds good. Actually, I won't be available on Thursday with you guys. I'll let y'all know that now. We're traveling Thursday morning. Big weekend series for first place in the conference. Actually, potentially for the conference championship, for the regular season championship is this weekend. So I'll be early on the road on Thursday, but I'll let you guys know on Monday how it goes.
Appreciate you, sir. Good luck this weekend.
I appreciate it, guys.
Always a pleasure, Mo. Always a pleasure to have JG here on the show. Mo, something happened in the NFL world yesterday that I was a little surprised about. There was a team that actually said, hey, we'll give you something of semi-value for Zach Wilson. And that team is the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos and the New York Jets make a trade. Zach Wilson, Mo, you are not impressed, I can tell by your face. Zach Wilson is the new quarterback. We don't know what that means. We don't know where he's going to fall in that conversation, but he is now a new quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Mo, before we get more specifically into the Zach Wilson move, the trade of Zach Wilson to the Denver Broncos, it now puts a little bit of a solidification on that draft class. Remember, there were some people coming out of that draft class that thought this draft class might be something. It was headlined by Trevor Lawrence, and then you had Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. Mo, 4 of them have been traded. 4 of them are no longer with the teams that drafted them. And if you are objectively looking at Trevor Lawrence, it hasn't been the greatest. He's definitely head and shoulders the most successful of the 5, but I think if you're being fair, he hasn't exactly lived up to expectations. He's had flashes of greatness, but he's yet to kind of put it all together. Injuries played a role in that. But 4 have been traded: Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. And of the 4 that were traded, well, we know that Justin Fields at least isn't starting this upcoming season. He's probably the future starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but at least at the start of the season, he's not going to start. We know that Mac Jones will not be the starting quarterback in Jacksonville, nor will he be the future of that franchise because of Trevor Lawrence. Trey Lance is in Dallas. I don't think he's the future starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, at least not with Dak Prescott there. And I guess Zach Wilson has the best chance of those 4, Mo, to be a starting quarterback this upcoming season, because they're probably going to draft someone, right? But maybe they start Zach for a little. I don't know, Mo. I can't believe they actually gave something up for him. Like, you could have just waited and got him when they cut him, because they were going to cut him.
Right. So I don't even know if Zach Wilson is better than Jarrett Stidham. I don't know if he's better than Stidham.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? I don't know if he's better. And I thought when I saw the move and I realized that it happened, I was like, so they cut Russell Wilson, traded for Wilson, the other Wilson,
the other one,
who's I don't know, he's about as good as the Wilson from Castaway that kept Tom Hanks company all that time. but that's the way they went. I have to believe that Denver, even with Stidham and trading for Zach Wilson, they're gonna draft a quarterback. They have to. If they don't, then I guess Sean Payton's ego is bigger than I thought, and he believes Hackett didn't know what he was doing. Let me get hold of Wilson. I'll show you. Okay. So Denver is going to have another bad season. If that's the route they're going, they're not going to be very good, and they won't have Russell Wilson to blame for not being very good.
But you know what? They got new uniforms, though. Silver linings. They dropped their new uniforms yesterday, right before the announcement of the Zach Wilson trade. See what they did there, Mo?
Clever. So it brought the fans are like, new uniforms, Zach Wilson.
Mo, NBA action last night, playoff basketball, which, by the way, I mean, obviously, if you're not a huge NBA fan, you may not realize it. Playoff basketball is a long venture in the NBA, but it's exciting all the way through. Last night, we saw the Nuggets go up 2-0 on the Lakers, the Knicks go up 2-0 on the 76ers, and Cleveland go up 2-0 on the Magic. Let's be honest, there wasn't much to talk about in the Cleveland-Orlando game, so we'll just glaze over that one. And let's go to the Knicks and the 76ers. Mo, you talked about it yesterday. You said that the 76ers, you thought were going to make a series out of this. They're down 2-0, not ideal. The series is by no means over. But then we find out this morning, Mo, that the Philadelphia 76ers have filed a grievance with the National Basketball Association for how the first two games of the playoffs were officiated. Yes, we are talking about the officials once again in the playoffs. They are not happy, Mo, to the point where they think it is grievance worthy. So you look at that two ways. One, the fix is in, and they're not getting the calls they think they should be getting because the Knicks are in there. Or two, the officials are just horridly bad, and they need something to be fixed because they're incapable of doing their jobs properly. There really is no other way to look at the grievance besides those two things. If they're not against you, then they're on bias and they're just terrible. Right. That's all. That's what the grievance is saying. So we'll start there. What do you make of the grievance, Mo? I laughed this morning when I saw it. I was like, really? That's what we're doing?
What I would say is the way they're calling these games in the playoffs so far, they're literally letting them play. Like when people talk about allow some physicality, swallow your whistle, less call. They're letting them play. You want to know what 90s basketball was like? It's not like this, but if you want a taste of it, this is a taste of it. Now, do they have a reason to complain about what happened in the last minute? I think it's a minute and a half. Sure. There's a scrum when DiVincenzo initially misses that first three, and Kyle Lowry literally gets tossed. But that wasn't one of those things where you can go, well, the refs just let that go. I don't think they literally didn't see it. There was all this stuff going on. Remember, they're tracking the ball and what's going on. I thought the referees, the last 3 minutes of that game, they did a poor job. You can whine. I don't want to use whine, but you could complain clearly if you're the Sixers that the referees didn't do a good job, especially with what's going on, what's on the line. But if you're the Sixers, when the Knicks hit that three, or the first three where the score is tied, and you're having trouble getting the ball in bounds, you call timeout. You have timeouts. You call timeout. They didn't do that. And Maxey did the criminal thing of all criminal things. You don't run to the corners when you know they're trying to trap you. He ran right to the corner. And then because they came up on him real fast, he was anticipating a foul. He fell back. And while he was on the ground looking for a call, they snatched the ball from him. Look, if you're the Sixers, I'll look at it this way. Both of those games were winnable games. And I don't think Embiid was 100%. I thought if I was going to gauge, he looks to be around 75, 80%. And it looks to be enough for you to win. You're just not closing out games. If I told you 2 games into this series, the Knicks are up 2-0 and Jalen Brunson is shooting 30% from the series, that's scary because he's due a big game sooner or later, and you've held him in check, and they've done a great job on him. I just think Philly has to do a better job of closing these games out. Maxey was amazing. I was more impressed with Embiid for a guy hobbling around on one leg, and he still puts up 34 points, 12 rebounds. He was impressive, but they're just not finishing the games out, and they've just got to do a better job of closing out the games.
Well, if the Sixers are filing a grievance, that's paper. I'm pretty sure LeBron James is going to be sending in some video. He is also upset with the officiating. He took some shots at the NBA officiating after the Lakers lost on a last-second beautiful shot in that game. Let's talk about the officiating in the Lakers series, specifically last night, as far as what LeBron is upset with. What did you see from that side of this? Is this just another classic LeBron's complaining because he's not getting the whistles that he thinks he should be getting?
No, look, the play that he really is pointing out in the post game, D'Angelo Russell drives to the hole. He clearly gets slapped across the head. He got clocked, and there was a no call. Actually, the referees reviewed it and called it incidental contact or something of that nature. And I thought to me it was a no call. That call did not determine the outcome of the game. And again, they're letting them play because of LeBron. If they called every foul, LeBron and AD, they are openly getting up under Joker's legs and rooting out. You're not supposed to be able to do that anymore. In this NBA, you can't root people out. That should be an automatic, and they're not calling that. They're letting them play. On the next to the last play, when the Lakers have the ball and LeBron's got a clear jump, he literally shivers the defender and sends the defender sprawling and has a wide open look. There's a no call. No one calls it. So, I mean, look, man, you can't get every call. And you had a 20-point lead. You didn't lose.
Let's not forget about that.
Right. You didn't lose the 20-point lead because there's a conspiracy. You lost a 20-point lead because the world champs stepped up their game. The guy that I think is the best player in basketball stepped up his game. The kid who had an awful game up until the last 3 minutes of the game stepped up his game and made the game-winning shot. You lost a 20-point lead because the better team won. Look, I watched the game. There's a point, I'll admit this to everybody listening. We're in the chat and we're going back and forth. And I'm feeling really good, Chris. We're in the third quarter, and I'm like, we hit a shot and we go up 20, and I did it. I did the jinx. I said, fellas, kiss the baby. The Lakers are winning. The Lakers are winning this. We're going back 1-1. Kiss the baby. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. AD is giving Joker the work. It is over. And lo and behold, here they come. Now, what I will say is this. Anthony Davis finished with 32 points. Anthony Davis had 32 points at the end of the third quarter. It was criminal that the Lakers did not go to him. They did not get the ball to Anthony Davis. His best defense up until that point was his offense. Joker can't go. There's no way Anthony Davis can guard Joker's single coverage. I don't know if anybody can, honestly. But Joker can't guard Anthony Davis either, and he was taking advantage of that, and they went away from that. Like, sometimes I get it. You have to have the need to keep your teammates involved, but when a guy is on one, keep giving him the ball till he's not on one anymore. And they went away from that, and I think that ultimately was one of the reasons it cost them the game. LeBron's comments, it starts with Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham's like, well, tough whistle, some no calls or some calls. Then he's like, but I'm not going to talk about that because you just got to go out there and play. And then he goes, well, I don't understand. A call in the regular season is called, but in the playoffs, apparently something else. Like right after he said he's not going to go into it, he goes into it. And so then you're complaining and you sound like you're whining. And I get it. When you lose a game like that in the fashion they lost it, it is a heartbreaking loss. And so your emotions are raw, but you didn't lose the game because of officiating. And I hate that too many players are doing the refs got it out for us because it's a bad look for the league. it's a bad look for the league. But I will say this: in many ways, this whining it is a big symptom of this current era.
We got more basketball tonight. Now, Mo, keep in mind the home teams. They've dominated so far, 11-0. They haven't lost yet. So 3 more games tonight. We got the Timberwolves at home versus the Suns, the Bucks at home versus the Pacers, and the Clippers at home versus the Mavericks. Are any of the away teams going to get one on the board tonight, or is it going to be a 14-0 start for the home teams?
Man, the Clippers look so good in game 1. I'm going to go with they can't play any better and the Mavs can't play any worse. I think the Mavs win one. I think the Mavs they're going to go back to Dallas 1-1.
Well,
go ahead.
No, you.
I was just going to say, of all the road teams, that's the road team that I think is going to get one.
Well, before we get out of here today, we got some wrestling things to talk about. First of all, congratulations to Miss Becky Lynch winning the Women's World Championship last night in a battle royal on Monday Night Raw, obviously due to the injury to Miss Rhea Ripley. But 2 interesting wrestling tidbits. The first one comes from AEW. It was announced about a week ago that Hook, who is the son of Taz, ECW legend Taz, who also, by the way, currently works for AEW. It was announced that Hook, who is a pending free agent, he is going to explore his options, Mo. This came a little bit after the video and all the chaos that Tony Khan was causing in AEW. Then Hook came out and said, listen, once I'm a free agent, once my contract is up, I'm not going to re-sign with AEW right away. I'm going to see what's out there, and then I'm going to make a decision. Well, Mo, fast forward about a week and a half from those comments, and Hook, 24-year-old, up-and-coming superstar, just dropped his FTW championship to Chris Jericho. The Chris Jericho who, there was barely any storyline here, Mo. Chris Jericho who, as a veteran in this industry, gets nothing. There is no gain. There is no storyline gain. There is no rub. It didn't need to happen. Mo, it looks to me like he upset Tony Khan, that Tony Khan took it personally, and Tony said, oh, you want to talk about leaving? Then I'm going to take the belt off you. It screams that to me. Agreed. Because there is nothing booking-wise, storyline-wise that made any sense about putting that belt on Jericho. And even the AEW fan mode, halfway through the match, they're telling Jericho to retire. That they didn't even want to see him in the match, much less win the match and take the belt off a Hook. I think Tony Khan is just in his emotions again. And I think he makes a lot of business decisions, Mo, with how his feelings are. And that's scary. You can say what you want about Vince, and we're going to talk about Vince in a minute, but Vince was a smart businessman. Yes, he did vindictive things. Yes, at times he let his emotions get the better of him, but Vince did business well. Tony, aside from the fact that he's got a lot of money to cover up his mistakes, I don't know what he's doing well business-wise over in AEW.
I don't know what he's doing either. Look, I don't know if you've ever seen, or anybody out there that's listening, ever seen the movie Along Came Polly.
Great movie. Great movie.
Okay, Brad, so we're there. The current version of Chris Jericho looks like the Sandy character from Along Came Polly.
Yes.
He's in that kind of shape. He's actually basically Sandy living off the past. If you're gonna have Hook lose, which I get it, you the kid says he's gonna leave, so you get emotional. Go, I'll teach you. Have him lose to a credible wrestler, right. not a guy who seems like he's just in it right now just for the paycheck. I mean, Jericho, it looks like he didn't work out anymore. He didn't do nothing with himself. Like he doesn't even look like Chris Jericho anymore. Like I said, he looks like Sandy Wexler. He's terrible. And for you to have him give it up to Jericho, look, I'm right with the fans. Why is Chris Jericho even still getting a check? Why is he still wrestling? Tony Khan, he thinks he's a junior Vince McMahon, but he's not Vince. Like you said, Vince is about he's about the business when it's all said and done. and he will do what's best for the business 9 times out of 10. Tony Khan makes everything about Tony Khan and how he's feeling in the moment. And that's his fatal flaw. Like I said, he is more or less a bad version of Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, which is saying something. Speaking of Vince, when Vince left WWE and he sold all of his TKO stock, which, by the way, I think he made close to $1 billion on the sale of all of his assets, he has a no-compete clause. That no-compete clause means that he cannot do anything in the world of professional wrestling until January of 2025, when his no-compete runs out. And I know listeners are probably thinking right now, Chris, Vince is not going to go compete somewhere. No, you're right. He isn't going to go compete in the ring. But there is this rumor and innuendo, Mo, this growing notion that when the non-compete ends in January 2025, Vince McMahon might make a run at putting together his own wrestling company. And I know what you're thinking. Why would he do that? He is old, which he is. But let's not forget, he has an ego. And by January of 2025, Mo, it is very plausible that his legal issues will have been rectified, whatever that might look like. And if they are rectified with people being paid and settlements being paid, and come January 2025, nothing new has come out and people aren't really talking about it anymore because it's kind of old news now, it could open the pathway for him to take all that money that he has, because he's still a very wealthy man, and create some sort of federation. And if you think that in the back of Vince's mind, everything we know about him, everything we've seen him do in this business, that he isn't upset about the way that he went out, which, by the way, there was no grace. There was no grace, there was no honor, and there was no respect in the way that he left the world of professional wrestling. If, Mo, I have to think, if there's a sliver of opportunity for him to get back into the game and put some shine on his name, I think he's going to try to. I don't think it's going to work. But, Mo, I don't know if he can walk away from that. I don't know if he could walk away from the comeback story. Vince creates whatever you want to call it, and now they're signing people from AEW, and like, the story could write itself if he could pull it off. I just don't think he could pull it off.
I don't either, and I think it's very interesting that he would try to start his own federation to knock off the Goliath that he created. Now it could be fun for a year or two, because we could go back to the Monday Night Wars, the real Monday Night Wars, right? Vince has a certain vision of wrestling and how he wants to do things. So I could see him with more over the top matches. He's probably going to go back to what we would call the kind of stuff that's not family friendly, but you can call it lowbrow, but that's his style. Characters that are kind of stereotypical, the whole nine, if he thinks it brings in ratings. I just think that from where he will be starting and where the WWE is right now, he essentially will become a lesser version of WCW. And I don't think he's going to be able to recreate the NWO or some kind of alteration of that. But for us, the wrestling fans, to have something to talk about, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I am intrigued. Good show on a Tuesday, sir. Close us out.
Thank you guys so much for joining Chris and I on this morning, wherever you are on your way to work or at home. We appreciate you so much. Make sure you check out all the great content that we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Appreciate you, Wire to Wire Network.
Make sure you're back here, same time, same place tomorrow. Will be here to break down what's happened so far in the NBA playoffs. Gene will be here to get us ready for the NFL draft, which is just around the corner. All of that and more. Coffee and sports. It's the morning show